Hey everyone, welcome to this amazing and currently new podcast. I'm Mambo Beck
I'm Mambo Muni,
and this is Finding Your Force.
where we break chains and ignite some flames.
So we're so excited that you all are here with us today. This has been an amazing collaboration leading up to this launch with myself and my wonderful god sister, Mambo Muni. We're really excited to kind of tell you what we're here to achieve, what we're looking to hopefully inspire in you. And we're excited to go on this journey with y'all and find all the joy that comes from finding your own force.
Yes, yes. So love it. 100%. What we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about who we are, each of us. We're going to talk about our story of how we met, how this podcast was born, essentially, and really kind of what we're about here.
Yeah, because, listening to strangers isn't always fun. So hopefully you get to know us a little bit better, and we're excited to get to know you better as well.
I love this story. I'd love to dive in and talk a little bit about like how this came about.
Absolutely.
And, in my mind, the immediate framework, right, is Poland 2026. But we also have a history beyond that as God sisters, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's, I guess, start from the beginning so that y'all can
Come on.
understand how Poland even happened, because it really is the catalyst for why this podcast came into existence. So, myself and Mambo Muni were god sisters. We're godchildren under Papa Hector Salva in the 21 divisions in Sanse. And this is a beautiful tradition linked to the African diaspora. And through that, we've gotten to really bond through our own journeys into healing, into our journey into the spirit and God, and all the amazing things that happened because of that, and to really finding step by step, separate yet together, kind of how we were elevating and still staying really connected and just on pace with each other. I can remember the first time I met Mambo Mooney. I was not a godchild yet of Papa Hector. It was one of my first ceremonies with him in that house. And I just remember seeing Mambo Mooney and we just started laughing. I don't know what we were talking about, but laughter just started. And she
Immediately.
said to me, she's like, I feel like I've known you forever. And I said, same. And I can say laughter has continued throughout almost now a decade of knowing each other and growing together and just having an amazing bond in this life that we're so graced and blessed to live. And she's been a total inspiration to me in her own journey and a more amazing sister I could not ask for. And so I can say that that's the tip of the iceberg of how me and Mama Mooney came to really start joining together and connecting so deeply.
Mhm. I'm so touched. And I love how much you highlight the laughter, right? Because, that's the immediate point of like almost like this infectious connection that I remember with you. And when I talk about, yeah, totally, the first time meeting you, it felt like I'd known you forever. And this immediate feeling of sisterhood. And it was, for me at least, like you didn't even need words for it. It wasn't just via our conversation. I don't actually
Mm-hmm.
remember specific words that were said. It
Neither
was
do I.
right. Like I don't know what we were talking about, right? But it's an energy, like a full
Mm-hmm.
on energy. And as we started kind of developing our connection together as God sisters, and I think it's so powerful because it would only be meeting in, two like in during traveling during
Yep.
ceremonies, right? So
Yep.
maybe 1 to 2 times a year
Yep.
in very intensive deep dive ceremonial work together at Papa Hector's temple, and that's where we would connect. And just in those, right, couple times a year over the past several years, right, just this feeling of sisterhood in an energetic level, a spiritual level. I feel like almost like we start laughing without even having to fully finish the words because we already know, right? So I fully, right, the connection is just kind of something this untangible, force is the way I could describe it. And it's been
Agreed.
such an honor.
And laughter is one of my favorite activities in life. So to have someone to have that laughter roller coaster with is the best. And the other thing that I can say that I think y'all as listeners can really relate to is community. This is we were joined through spiritual practice, but we also found
Mhm.
community in spirit, but in each other as well. And that's something that I know a lot of people search for, look for, try to build for themselves because we're human beings and we're not meant to walk this life by ourselves. We're meant to be there in a community because community is what helps you get through the challenges, helps you celebrate the joys. You can do those things by yourself, but neither joyous or challenging are as much
Mhm.
fun or as easy by yourself.
Yep.
So that's something that I'm eternally grateful for. It's such an amazing experience and bond. And so fast forward almost a decade later, one of our wonderful godbrothers, Ungan David, lives
Mhm.
in Poland and he decided to have ceremony in Poland, bring the spirit to Europe. And so a lot of us from our spiritual house went over there to help assist and support. And I was one of them, and Mambo Muni was another. And so we had some a lot of work, a lot of spiritual work, but for others, for clients, for future godchildren, and this was all it's arduous, but there's nothing so complete as doing what it is that makes you feel whole, whatever that is, right? So for me, for Mambo Muni, it's that. For other
Mhm.
people, it might be something else. It doesn't matter what it is. It's what makes you feel I'm fully here. I'm meant for this. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so
Yeah.
we have such a even deeper immersion of bond just through sharing those experiences. And then after a lot of time, a lot of jet lag, probably not the best sleep, but very great coffee. We woke up one day, the rest of our B&B spiritual God siblings were still sleeping, and me and Mama Mooney found ourselves at a kitchen table. And I'm going to pass this to you because I think you tell this part best.
Beautiful little kitchen table, right? Out looking this beautiful green landscape in
Yep.
Poland. Shout out to Papa for, Papa Hector for, arranging
Finding an
this
amazing
beautiful
space.
meeting at home at David, of course, right? And we're sitting in this beautiful kitchen and yeah, sipping on this coffee, laughing as usual, talking about multiple, topics about our personal lives and just, life. And we're laughing, laughing, laughing. And to reiterate, it's never in the words. I don't remember what we were talking about. And all I remember is a little zing where we both literally had a zap of energy through our body. That's how I remember it. And we look at each other and we're like, podcast.
We're like, yeah, uh-huh, let's do this.
Let's do
And
this.
it was maybe four words that created an entire concept. And so we're so excited that we've been working since we got back and this is it. So we're here for it and we're here
Yeah.
for you and we're excited that
Yes.
you're here for us.
Another powerful aspect, I think, of our connection that I really want to name too, that I really felt in Poland strongly was being able to work with each other. Like actually
Yes,
hands on do the spiritual ceremonial work, right? Which not all our listeners would be maybe familiar with, but really
sure.
hands on work, right?
Hmm.
And not just the work being hands on, but the scenarios that we're dealing with, right? The different types of suffering people are going through and
Yeah,
we're doing these ceremonies to help them and like really heavy forces and being able to
absolutely.
collaborate in that space together and actually work together. And Poland in particular was, I think, the first time that I really got to intimately work one on one with you, like our hands on spiritual work. And there's a certain level of trust and respect that
Absolutely.
I have for you in
Same.
feeling that beautiful space be held together and be able to work together, and I think you and I both have strong leadership skills and there's so much misinformation out there, just horrible stereotypes that unfortunately sometimes become true as well, of like that
Yeah.
two women who can be strong and be strong leaders can't work well together.
Yeah.
So I would love to shatter that, because every person, right, it's it's has the right to be a leader within themselves, however that
Absolutely.
expresses, right? And I think that's part of this finding your force, journey, is that, like, you can be strong in your own, right?
Hmm.
Everyone is allowed to be strong on their own, right? And to feel that safety with you in a working setting where we can collaborate, we can give each other advice, we can
Yeah.
teach each other, we could listen to each other, and you can be a leader and be equals with somebody. And I feel so
Absolutely.
so strongly with you. There's a certain level of respect that I developed through also the work together, you know and as intense as the work is, as heavy as it is, going back to our connection, somehow working together feels light. So
It does.
lots. Yeah.
And that goes kind of really back to community, right? Some of these things, for listeners who aren't as familiar with, say, these traditions or what this kind of spiritual work that me and Mambo Muni are referencing really entails, it's a wide variety. In this scenario, it was really helping some wonderful individuals release some previous traumas, to heal, to get big blockages out all at once versus kind of chipping away at that big iceberg. And so this is something that, through the grace of God and the Mysterios, the Loa, they help us. And working together is something that allows that to be done sometimes quicker. Sometimes we've got our own little areas of higher expertise, maybe in accordance with each other, but they're complementary. And
Mhm.
so this was something that really did allow us to trust is so huge. It really is, because you're working in the moment. You don't have time to, run out the room and study and say, well, should we do this? Should we do that? It's just a fluid motion. And so this is something that's really beautiful when you're able to create bonds with people, to be your full, authentic self and stand in your power, whatever that power is. And to what Mambo Muni was saying, specific to women, in many societies, we're pitted against each other. It's always who's better, who's this, who's that, keeping up with, I got to at least meet that level of this other person or better them, versus focusing on what is for you. What is about you? What is your force? What is your power? Because everyone's born with something. And so it's really about being that leader from where you sit, and that leader is being the master of yourself, where you're controlling your outcomes, where you are controlling the level and breadth of joy that can come into your life, where you can control keeping all that negative shit out of the way. And yes, Mambo's, just for reference, we're initiated priestesses, and sometimes a cuss comes out because God created everything, including that. So we're going to set that expectation early, because we're
Yes.
also just here and we are very real.
Hmm.
There's a time and a place for all things, and there's an amazing capture of words that can, kind of uniquely pinpoint certain scenarios.
Yeah.
So that being said, Poland was beautiful. The work that we were able to do was beautiful. And the podcast is really something where not only were we excited to work with each other, not only did we have that inspiration simultaneously. When I say simultaneous,
Yeah.
we really just looked at
Yeah.
each other. And before the word podcast came out, Mama Mooney said, should we? I said,
That's right.
you want to? We both said yes, and started just cackling away, just very
Mhm.
excited. So if there could have been confetti, y'all, confetti would have been falling. That's how excited we were. And this is also maybe half a cup of coffee, in which I can speak for myself personally. That's saying a lot, because generally I'm not that animated before at least one and a half.
Yeah. Same. Same exact number, 1.5.
So,
Yeah.
but a lot of the excitement was about what we knew we could bring forward through this collaboration, through joining our individual forces, because it doesn't diminish by joining, it only grows greater, right? That impact, that beauty that can be felt by so many more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've been on that journey. We've sat in spaces of despair. We've sat in spaces of immense trial where we just did not know, how am I moving forward? Can I move forward? Through this work, a lot of what we'll be talking about on our different podcasts, through a lot of these lessons that Spirit, Papa Hector Salva, our own experience have taught us, these things are what have helped us elevate into this space of joy. So it's not just speaking from this space about something we don't know. Truly, we understand because we have
Yeah.
been there in those depths. And not only is it a blessing to be able to share this, but at the end of the day, I know from my side, it's a responsibility. Joy is not to be kept for yourself, it's to be spread as wide as possible.
Yeah.
And so it's something that I am so excited to start embarking on, to walk with y'all as you begin to journey.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 1,000%. Yeah. Right. Like you and I know deeply, and we also have our own unique journeys and journeys that will continue. Right. But really know
Mm-hmm.
when we walk through fire, have everything we've known about ourselves, the world, our external lives burned down. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we thought we were meant to be burned down. I can go on and on about the burning down, right?
Yeah.
That happens. And then dancing on those fucking ashes,
Yep.
sometimes having to put out fires, right? As ours gets lit. Like we know like deeply,
Mm-hmm.
that journey. And 1,000% what you said, like there's this level of just gratitude and beauty when set fire ignites, to a certain level where all you want to do is just like be here and be with whatever calls you, just like this podcast called that,
Yep.
calls us. And
Yep.
however that touches people is meant to be, what's here for us, it unfolds, and the fire, the torch can be shared, right? So yeah. So on that topic, you're really emphasizing the you, right? The uniqueness of the you, and how so much of what we want to honor is that. Like, let's talk a little bit about who you are. Like, let's get to know you a little bit. I know you operate our spiritual services, right? As Mambo Beck. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So our spiritual services, it's been around for quite a while. I think I formally started working under kind of that name. Oh God, over a decade ago. But it's really something that focuses on people worldwide. It doesn't matter where you live. I mean, we know how to be awake at different time zones, as does the rest of the world, so we make it work. Um, but it's something that continues to just grow and expand based on what my amazing clients need. So a lot of what they come to me specifically for, kind of like I spoke about a little bit earlier, every every spiritual worker kind of can do most things, some all things, but there's certain areas that we're kind of just gravitate towards, or our clients gravitate towards us for these kind of buckets of services or assistance and help and guidance. So on my side, a lot of what I focus on is cleansings, removals of negative ick, and that could be trauma, ancestral trauma. It could be maybe a not so awesome spirit that's like, hey, you look delicious. And you're like, I don't want to be your meal, but it happened. So we get rid of that. I also focus a lot on protections and justice work and children. Not meaning necessarily working directly with the children, but parents who come to me because there's issues with children in their lives. where there might be something that's challenging that needs to be righted so that that child can continue on the beauty that is a child, which is wonderment, joy, carefreeness. And then I also focus on inner work, and that's kind of where me and Mambo Muni really joined together. And that inner work is about finding your internal personal force. And that's getting rid of all that stuff that's weighed you down over the years, all the things you didn't even realize you were carrying until you're with someone such as myself that can say, oh, I see this, oh, I see that. And I also know how to guide you through that journey to remove that. And then you say, oh my God, I lost like 100 pounds of spiritual weight. This is amazing. Flying. And that's really kind of how it feels sometimes.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I tend to focus on the most. And I've got clients that sometimes are with me for a short journey. Other times they're with me long term, because as they see the progression, they want to keep going and realize, oh wow, this isn't a point A to point B done. I can actually go through that whole alphabet and maybe enter into some algebra. Let's mix everything up together. So no matter what that journey is, I'm here for it as the support, as the guide. And it's really a beautiful thing to watch people transform and to see their own delight at them witnessing their own transformation. It's absolutely astounding. It's something that I can't believe I get to just live this life to do this, because it's a holiday every time someone finds themselves again.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. And one of the things I heard you share with me is the spirit, I think, one time brought to you, right? That you are a mambo of the mind. So I imagine that ties into all of this work that you do. Do you want to talk more about that? Like, is that?
Yeah. So the spirit came in our tradition, for viewers who are not familiar. We don't need to talk through someone else to hear the spirit. We work on developing our own capacity so we can hear the messages, as well as sometimes they just show up very literally and they say, by the way, this. And in one of these scenarios, the spirit told me that I'm a mambo of the mind, and to make sure that that's where I continue to focus. And really what that means is working on the piece that connects to everything else. So when you think of a psychologist or a psychiatrist, they're very focused on the mind, right? They're exploring the brain and how it works and how it creates all these different impacts that you now experience and understand as your reality. A mambo of the mind is someone who understands that the mind is not by itself. It's connected to all other bodies. So it's connected to your spiritual body, your emotional body, your physical body. It's a marriage to understand how is the mind impacting everything else and creating whatever the challenges you're going through. How can it also create the joys that you're going through? How can the mind be released so that the rest of your bodies can actually experience more freedom, more balance, instead of being controlled singularly here? So that's a very brief but slightly intense description of that. It's hard to put into words, but it really is about a marriage. It's about releasing the mind so that the rest of your bodies that are a part of your whole being can have space to express and grow and develop.
Mm-hmm. That feels so important in at least our Western society here in this day and age, because we are so heavily focused on the mind, and everything that's getting fed to us is like in the mind. We put a lot of weight on the importance of the mind. We put it on a pedestal here,
We do.
right? And
Absolutely.
so it's when you mentioned it like this, the way I was seeing it as you were describing it, it's like this top down.
And I mean, the mind is there for a reason, right? It's not to say it doesn't serve its purpose, but just like I was saying, like, how psychiatrists or psychologists might be really focused there. Look at, a physician, or, someone who's more focused on your physical being, and they're not thinking about here, they're thinking about here, right? What's wrong with your heart, your lungs, you're having a tick, you're having that. Whereas if you're having anxiety or depression or something else of that nature, they're only looking up here. These things are not disconnected. They're all part of the ecosystem that contains your spirit, your individual spirit.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a little bit about me and Mambo, which both Muni and myself are. Mambo really just means mother. It's mother of the spirit, and every single person is a spirit. So it's part of why we have such passion to help, to assist, to support, to guide, because quite frankly, that's what a good parent does. It doesn't mean there's not you know, some parameters, or, parents come in all shapes and forms. So every priest and priestess has their own flair, their own style, their own way. But what it really means is that we're here to help take care, assist, support, and nourish the spirits around us, including each person that we come
Hmm.
into contact with.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Nourish the
I
spirit.
mean, it's something that's awesome. But I feel
Hmm.
like I've talked a lot about me, so I want to get over to Mambo Mooney and then back to you listeners, because quite frankly, this podcast is not about us. It's about you. But we want to make
Hmm.
sure you all know who you're talking to and who you're listening to. So, Mambo Mooney, my understanding is that your spiritual practice is keeping the clarity, and tell me a little bit more about that. I know that you've got a really interesting mission, and I think it's exciting. I love it. So let's hear a little bit about how it came into being, and what keeping the clarity is all about.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, I love that you're saying keeping the clarity, but
Oh,
what's
I am so
funny.
sorry. My bad.
No, no, no. This is what's hilarious is like you reminded me of how I was deciding between keeping the clarity and keep the clarity, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like speaking them out loud, right? I'm like keeping the clarity, keep the clarity. They're both aligned with basically like one, getting clarity is a process that you got to keep working on keeping
Yep. Yep.
clarity in yourself, like
Mm-hmm.
respecting who you are, right? That manifesting whatever it is that feels clear in your life, like that, it's a process and you have to keep yourself clear, mind,
Yeah.
body,
Yeah.
spirit, right? What you expose yourself to maintain that in life, to continue elevating into who you are. So I was like, keep the clarity.
Directive. It is a
Yeah.
directive. Do
Yeah.
it.
It could be my inner like Southeast Asian parent being like, keep it, like keep the clarity.
I love it.
But yeah, yeah. So that's so much of kind of the root of what keep the clarity is about, is like just keeping alive that it's a process, an ongoing process, and within that process of keeping ourselves clear, our
Mm-hmm.
focus clear, right, there's a lot that goes into that, like I mentioned, inner work piece, which we overlap in a lot of the work we were drawn to doing together. It includes, how did you phrase it that I loved? Spirits come and they're like hanging out, and they're not meant to be around you, and extraction of those forces,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of kind of those extraction and inner work, that I specialize in. I think you
Mhm.
mentioned this earlier too, right? It's kind of like what comes your way, right? And I
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
Papa Hector teaching me this because, I was like very, Western education minded, and like wondering, oh, what am I going to specialize in? And then I remember, Papa Hector guiding, like, your clients are going to show you, you know,
Yeah.
what it is. So, he actually gave me my mission statement for my website,
I love it.
and I know why, because I was in the process of like gaining my confidence a lot after really intensive period of my life, right? And he gave me my mission statement, which is, I turn weak, sad, fearful women into strong, independent, or strong, something like that. I love that I don't remember my exact words. But the main point is badass bitches. So
Yeah.
I turn weak women into badass bitches, right? And there's a lot that I could say about, that badass bitch and what that
Mhm.
is. And it continues to unravel for me as I keep elevating, in my
Yeah.
life, right?
Yeah.
My predominant clients are women. I sometimes get men who have a similar dynamic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're people that have for whatever reasons, unique reasons, have kind of like hollowed themselves out for other people.
Yeah, yeah.
That could be people who are in abusive relationships, people who took on the role of the kind of sponge of darkness in their family, right? But basically have become so withered away and disempowered. And that they don't even realize, I'll see it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And clients, we see it in our clients, that fire, right? They don't even realize that actually underneath that, they're not just like a healed person, but they're a fucking badass,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so it's that full flip and guiding people, you know, through that full flip, if
Mm-hmm.
that's what they want and that's what aligns for them. Zero self-respect, zero energy poured into yourself, always giving away energy once you have it. Sometimes for some people it's sticking into an abusive family dynamic, right?
Yeah.
So on and so forth. But shifting that and then realizing, okay, not only can I be out of that, but like all of that made me a badass. And now how do I become and digest that? So that's a lot of the kind of root, and it goes along with inner work. It applies to clearing people of forces,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff, ceremonial work. um
I also think it's so cool that we have an overlap, but almost from like two sides moving themselves into each other. Where you
mhm.
started out in the mind, I actually started more in the body. And then Spirit was like, yeah, the mind, bring that in. And you said the body, the mind, but the body needs to be brought in. So I love that kind of mirrored overlap that we have. I think it's another thing that really just strengthens our connection and bond. I think that's so fascinating that
Mhm.
that's kind of one of your areas of strength, because I think you hit the nail on the head when you were saying, often we're a lot of clients come to us as a last resort when it comes to having a more significant challenge. And so that's I think amazing. Some of the things that are really your areas of expertise.
That's so wild.
I'm
Yeah,
laughing. I'm like, oh wow, here we
yeah,
go.
that's super cool. We're like, oh, meeting here.
What is all of this about us? What does this mean for our listeners? Because I know listeners, you're like, okay, I've hung in so far, guys. Um, what are you doing for me here? Why am I listening to you? There's other podcasts. So I'll give it
Mhm.
to you first, Mambo Mooney, and then I'll throw in my little piece, and then we're gonna let you hit like, subscribe, and can't wait to hear you the next time. But what about
Mhm.
you? What do you think
Yeah.
our listeners are going to be able to gain from this podcast?
Yeah, I think sprinkled in, throughout this podcast so far, we've touched in on like what it means to break break chains and ignite flames, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like uncovering that, finding it, and really our like just this organic heart driven desire we have to just show up here and so on and so forth. There's so much that's just going to unfold organically, but having this kind of format of um podcasts that are we collab on like today, and
Yeah.
then these ones that are more individually focused, right? Not
Yeah.
only it's going to be a journey kind of in motion, I'll be getting to know you deeper as well,
Yeah.
as you share your unique wisdom, and so there'll be kind of perspective you get from each of us, as individuals, but also the collabs. And I think having that combination, there's just so much based on even like the specializations you shared, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be a lot of basically just wisdom shared along these lines of empowerment, finding your force, and also love and connection. And on a logistic level, right, I think there's a lot of shared areas that you and I would be impassioned to talk about. The realm of
Yeah.
ancestors and ancestral healing, herbal medicine, dark forces. What are we talking about when we talk about these, and
Yeah.
spirits that need to be cleared?
I love that. I love your perspective. Gave me tingles. I think that what you can expect from us, our amazing listeners, what our commitment is to you, is to bring the intangible more tangible, closer. There's a lot that each one of us as humans experience in our lives, and we don't realize how it's impacting us. We don't even realize, like, oh, how I'm acting here is because of the root way over there, right? And so it's something that helps. us all connect more deeply into like, oh wow, let me think about this. Maybe this is something that I can improve, or maybe this is something that I've been accepting way too long. And I didn't realize what it was doing to me. I didn't realize how it was snuffing me out. I think really what we're excited for you to gain here is definitely new perspectives, new tools on how to live a better, healthier, balanced, more joyful life. And through our individual podcasts that we'll be dropping, one from Mambo Muni, one from me every Friday. Um, this also helps give you a broader perspective, right? You heard that we each have our own specialties and some areas of overlap, but we want to make sure we're able to reach as many of you as possible so that whoever voice is the one that's going to connect and support you is there for you. And so I'm just really excited, to Mama Mooney's point, to learn more about her, to gain wisdoms from her for myself, to be on this journey, not just as witnesses and guides for you, but together with you. That is what community is. No matter who you are in that community, what your role is in any given community, everyone has a purpose and everyone can learn, gain, and expand from each other. And so that brings us really back to finding your individual force. You have so much to offer that no one else can. That's why you're here. You're
Yeah.
here for a very unique purpose. And so this is something that we're excited to see you gain that confidence inside, gain that fire inside. Or if you've got a little, maybe you have a flame. You're like, I have a flame. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, maybe it grows bigger, right? There's a candle and then there's a torch. Both are flames, both create light, but they can do some different things, right? More instantly. And breaking chains, that's truly my passion because it's about freedom. It's freedom for your spirit, for your life, for your journey. It's to come outside of the control of everything that you've put into yourself or that others have put into you that maybe is not for you to hold anymore. And where maybe once where it gave you safety, now is just blocking.
Yeah.
And so breaking chains is about that freedom. Because once you claim that for yourself, as you should, that flame becomes a wildfire in the best of ways. So that's how I look at this. This is what I'm excited for us to be able to help support you in and provide to you. And yeah, I can't wait. Don't forget to like, subscribe on your favorite podcast. We're on Spotify, iTunes, whatever you need. And if you want to find us on Instagram, at Mambo Beck is my handle, Mambo Muni.
Yep. And I'm at Keep the Clarity. There's going to be my handle across all the platforms. There's just so much exciting stuff to unfold here. And remember, we grow brighter together.
So stay lit.
Till next time.
Bye, guys.